from dark roast to dark horse. Not many people had Darko Rajakovic on their radars, but you guys did. It went through the process. You said that maybe he wasn't the guy, at least that was top of mind to start. But I wonder, he was on your radar. So how did he first surface on your guys' radar?
Yeah, a little bit behind the curtain. When we start this process first, you're saying, okay, what are we looking for in a candidate? And I think you start to make calls around the league. Some of the teams that previously did head coaching searches are just people that, Masai, myself, or, other people in the front office have relationships with. And I'd say 3 or 4 people that, we all really trust. He said, listen, talk to Darko. He's really interesting. Kind of, don't know if he's ready, but he kind of makes sense. So we jumped on a call with him, I think probably, very early, maybe the week after, we started the process, and it was really impressive, really, probably you all saw yesterday, thoughtful, smart, really diverse basketball life experiences around the world. So we brought him in twice in person to Toronto, and, just kind of every step along the way, he just exceeded expectations, had him interact with some different people on our staff. And, I think what everyone will learn to appreciate and enjoy with Darko is he's very thoughtful, really smart, cares about, the interpersonal relationships with staff and players, and, just really high marks all around. And so really lucky to get him. But, it wasn't necessarily at the top of most, kind of list of who would be the next Toronto Raptors head coach.
Yeah, we certainly got that same vibe while watching him yesterday and having opportunity to hear his media availability, at least in our network as well. Charismatic, obviously really cares about the team and the community and the culture that you're having there with the Toronto Raptors. But when we talk about the basketball, the X's and O's, his on-court philosophy, was there something that he shared with you that really solidified that this was going to be your guy, personality and all the charisma aside?
Yeah, I think it starts a lot with his track record with player development, developing guys. I think he said it yesterday, just having guys get better, improve every day. I think that's a big one that implicit in that is a lot of structure and discipline and accountability. And so I think that was importance for us with a group of our younger players. But at the same time, good relationship with veterans. He's coached, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, and Memphis. And so those are all teams that have had a lot of recent success. And so at the same time, being able to coach, star players in Fred and Pascal and a young, budding talent in Scotty Barnes. And so I think kind of hit all of those. It has experience with development, has experience with veterans. And then obviously overarching with everything is winning and doing that within a winning environment, I think is the best way to develop those type of players.
And in any interview process, you might be asked to show your work or explain how, this situation, how you were able to show your value. And, you could look at the teams that he's been involved in, but I wonder if there's a player that sort of embodies what his process is. I mean, Desmond Bane was brought up yesterday. He spoke about him on our Raptors show at Sportsnet 590, The Fan. But is there a player, a situation, a team, an iteration of a team where Darko's work is best shown?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to, specify anyone just to point them out or to not acknowledge somebody else. But I think Oklahoma City, when they were young and developing, right, they had a really interesting young core. They made it to the NBA Finals. And I think recently with Memphis, you've seen kind of their growth over the past few years and kind of becoming a relevant team and, playoff team, potential contender. So I think part of winning organizations and at the same time bringing up young players the right way. So that's where we think we are. The challenge, as it always is to do that and win. And I think that, we're here to support him and we're here to put everything around him, both staff-wise, but also on the court to do that.
We're speaking with Bobby Webster, Toronto Raptors general manager. So if you're looking at young talent, you can stop right at Scotty Barnes, of course, one of the most exhilarating young talents in the league. So in which ways do you think that Darko can help Scotty or help this young team in terms of his development in his third season here?
Right. So it's an important offseason for Scotty. He knows that. He's working hard every day. I think probably what we saw last year is just playing with force and intensity every single game. I think the natural talent there, ball handling, sharing the ball with others, obviously improving his shooting. I would say there's no kind of magic pill with Scotty other than, just continued hard work. He'll continue to get better. He's only 21 years old. But I think for Darko, just establishing that routine and expectation that we all expect out of Scotty.
Part of the rationale from yourself and Masai Ujiri yesterday when speaking to the value that Darko brings was that he can coach in any sort of situation, whether this is a team that's trying to win a title, a team that's rebuilding, a team that's somewhere in the middle. But every situation can be optimized, right? So if you're looking at Darko, what's like the type of team he would be best suited to coach?
It's a good question. I think, inherent in being able to coach a bunch of different teams is high character, work ethic, creating a good environment for his staff and for the players to thrive in. And so I think you never want to hire a coach specific to a certain roster or to a specific situation. And so we really just valued a bit more of the universal characteristics as opposed to saying this specifically is going to work with this player or this style of play. I think it's probably fairly clear from last season and after we acquired Pirtle at the deadline, defensively we can play a lot of different ways. And I think that came, through with interviewing Darko, but also interviewing some of the other candidates that style of play defensively is it's a versatile roster and probably, more of the low hanging fruits on the offensive end and style of play and moving the ball and, playing a bit more unselfish as we've talked about, throughout the season. So I think that is kind of how we see him, adjusting to this roster.
A European coach rising to prominence is a little bit different, at least when looking at the NBA, right? Because they have to prove themselves in Europe, then they have to prove themselves probably at a lower level here in North America, and they have to prove themselves to get to the NBA. It's almost like they have to do it a couple times, but it doesn't really matter where you come from. If you prove yourself at the NBA level, you're going to get a chance. However, there might be differences, right? So when looking at Darko and looking at other candidates who haven't coached overseas, are there like easily identifiable differences between candidates that are European and candidates that exclusively have coached here in North America?
There are. I think Darko sits a bit in the middle, right? He grew up in Europe. He came over to the U.S. at a fairly young age, at least professionally. So he's been in coaching in the U.S. for over 10 years now. So I think he kind of fit the right balance. At the same time, we're Toronto. We're the only international team. So, I think it makes a bit more sense for us. Everyone that's from here lives in Toronto, travels around Canada. I think it's a very international city, international country. And so I think that part of it, at least hopefully for him, feels a bit more, closer to home coming from Memphis. So I think wasn't anything that precluded. I think there's always going to be a difficulty culturally, just growing up in different places. But I think as we've all learned, I think having that diverse experience is beneficial and maybe even preferred in today, in 2023, and to be able to connect with players. The NBA, I believe, now is over a quarter international from a player perspective, and maybe from a coaching perspective, it's lagged a bit behind. But we think, obviously now is the right time and the right environment for him to succeed.
We're speaking with Bobby Webster, Toronto Raptors general manager. Okay, so the NBA draft is already next Thursday. Kind of snuck up on us quick here. I wonder what you think of the depth compared to previous years and maybe the type of player you guys will be targeting at 13th, and do they have to be Serbian?
We like 13. We think there's a lot of players there, and I don't just say that. Some years you're hoping for guys to slide just to kind of make it, but we feel really comfortable. There's obviously talent at the top with the obvious name, but throughout the draft, we feel like we'll get somebody that we really like at 13. As far as specific skill set, I think things are so transitional, and the NBA players are coming and going. You just really want to take best available. So obviously, we're going to prioritize the things we always do. High character, skill set, positional size, two-way player. It's so hard, to play the guessing game every day we do it, and we sit in the room and say, can you mock draft it out, and who's the best case at 13, who's the worst case of all the guys we like. But that's kind of the fun of the draft and fun of, evaluating these guys. But no, we'll always take best available, but you'll probably see another Raptor-type player be drafted.
So progression was the priority that you outlined when we spoke last, which was the start of this past season. And that's still clearly paramount at the individual level. This team needs to improve at the individual level to take a step forward. But in terms of team progression, is improving on 41 wins the priority this season, this upcoming season? Or is the organization okay with taking a small step back to take steps forward?
Yeah, I think, we want to play more together. I think that was the biggest one, kind of takeaway we came out of last year is there were times, I think not for anything malicious, but players, whether they're playing for their numbers or playing for themselves. And so we wanted to really just re-implement a chemistry, a camaraderie, players sacrificing, playing their roles for the betterment of the team. Does that result in 42 wins, 43 wins? I think that's not the priority, but more to get this team back together. It went, inherent in some of the decision-making with the coaching staff was that. And so with a new coach in Darko, kind of a fresh start, does it feel a bit more exciting and different? And can we kind of glue the team together in a better way?
Last one for you here, Bobby, and we definitely appreciate the time. It took a while to make this coaching hire, and there's nothing wrong with that because you're looking for the right candidate, and you guys hope you arrived at it. But I wonder if it was a bit difficult to bounce back from this season because it was emotional, letting go of Nick Nurse, who's so important to this franchise. What was it like, recovering from this season, bouncing back and moving forward? Did it take a toll on the organization, what we saw this year and the decisions that had to have been made at the end of the season?
Well, the playing game was a disappointing way to go out, not how anyone expected. However, I'm sure, there's only one winner at the end of the day, so there's always going to be disappointment. But I think for us, we've been together for a while here, resilient, tough, won together, lost together. So I wouldn't say this year specifically was tough. It was tougher because we let a lot of people that, personal relationships you care about go. But no, I think we're excited, rejuvenated, energized. The draft is here, free agency is here. And, by the time Summer League here, it'll be in the rear view mirror. So no, we're excited. Yesterday was the start of that, outdoors, free ice cream sandwiches, all the good stuff. So we're ready to go.
Well, Bobby, I appreciate you taking the time this morning. Best of luck with the big decisions and the draft coming up, and we'll look forward to chatting with you at the start of next season.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks so much. That's Bobby Webster, Toronto Raptors general manager.